afternoon. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Friday 3:30 p.m. live at the Journey to Bali online crop. And we are going to be looking at craft in a box. You got to be careful how you say that. Yes, craft in a box. And I'm always excited when I get crafty things in the mail. I'm always excited. And I've got an echo in my craft room. Woo, no, it was so spacious that I've got an echo. And so I wanted to share this. Now, I have shared the subscription program that Stampin' Up! Has with you several times, but every time it's always super exciting to get, and it's super exciting to see what's in there. And some of you were probably on with me online when I got my box, but I haven't put it together yet, so I thought I would pop it open and we could work on it together. So if you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. If you're watching later on replay, drop a comment. I see Deborah is here. Good afternoon. And Carol is here. You made it home just in time. Awesome. And I had a couple ideas for today, and this was my original idea for what I was going to do during this time spot. And so I decided I'd just go with my original idea. So we're going to take a look. Now, this is Paper Pumpkin. It's a subscription box from Stampin' Up! And it arrives every month like clockwork on my front doorstep. And I really like that. And there's always lovely things inside. I have not been disappointed yet with my Paper Pumpkin. And you do get a little sneak peek ahead of time to give you an inkling of what may be about to arrive. And so I know for next month, the kit is a fall-themed kit. It will be cards, and it coordinates with the Autumn 12 for Autumn 12. Let me look. Yes, Autumn 12 designer series paper. So it's very much an autumn kit, and probably the next one will be into Christmassy stuff. So this is the one that was for August. So it arrived 2/3 of the way through August, and so this one is not what you would get if you ordered now. You would get the next one up until ordering on the 10th of September. You can order the one for September. After that, you'll get October's as your first one. So when you open it up, it comes wrapped in tissue. There's pretty tissue paper inside. Of course, I pillaged it and used it in a gift bag this past weekend because I had 2 kids having birthday parties. And then you get a package in here, and it's all wrapped up nice and neat and secure. And there will be full color pictures and instructions of all the cards. This one was called Farmhouse Florals. It was the August kit. Now, if you are a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, you can purchase refills for the kit after the fact, if there are any. So if you subscribe now for for September's kit, you could add this as an add-on. It would just not have the stamps or the ink in it. Those come separate from the kit. They're part of the kit, but they come separate from the kit. So, because if you're buying an add-on and you've already got it, you're not going to need 2 stamp sets. But this kit actually came with 2 stamp sets, and that was a little bit of a bonus. So one of them has a teapot. It says, "You're simply the best. Thank you for your constant friendship and listening ear. Always here for you. For a great friend." It's got some images. And then the other one says, "For you, thank you. Just a note. XOXO. Hello. You're loved to say. Forever your friend." And then this last one says, "Good friends are hard to find. I'm so glad we found each other." So you get that nice little sheet because that helps you decipher what's on the stamp sets. You get a Stampin' Spot, and this is one of the new In Colors Secret C. Now, I did not open this up because I already have the classic Stampin' Pad for Secret C, and so I'm going to save that and give it to somebody else to use. It comes with some linen thread for embellishing. It comes with some dimensionals, mini dimensionals for adhering. And then it has all the card bases and die cuts. So this is one of the card bases, all pre-scored. Make sure I've only got 3 there. There's 3 different designs. And these ones may look like they're plain cards, but they're actually, they've got like flecks of color in them. And then the last 3 are a horizontal card or a landscape card. And then there's the die cuts that come. These ones are already punched out. These ones you punch out yourself. And so lots of those. And then where there's also envelopes. And they come lovely printed with pretty colorful flaps. And this time they're all the same. Sometimes each card will have a different design of envelope. So let's get started creating some of these cards, and you'll see them come together. And I think these cards are actually probably one of the easier ones. I'm going to say easier. I haven't put any of them together. Ones that I've received, which is good. I like that there's different skill levels. Sometimes you just need things to go quick. Sometimes you need slow. Sometimes you want to make it with a friend and they maybe don't have the same experience you do. And so it's lovely that there is a variety in the pack. And I know a lot of people who take the contents of these kits and make completely different cards out of them or use them on layouts. It's totally up to you. Think of it as a consumable item, right? You're going to use it however you want to use it, and that's that. I see that Laura is joining us, and Ellie is here. Hello, hello, and Barb. My mom's here too. Hooray. Carol made it home just in time. All right, so let's start with card number 1. And card number 1 starts out with that blank card, and it makes 3 of them. And we're just going to make 1 of them today. I'm going to go ahead and fold that along that score line. And when you order for the very first time, you actually will also receive in your very first kit a stamp block. Now, if you're an experienced crafter, this might not be your idea of the ideal stamp block, but it totally works, and you can also use it to help you crease down those score lines. So let's move along here. We're going to start out with some stamping, and we need this little flower image from the stamp set. We're going to walk it off the carrier sheet. I don't recommend grabbing one end and ripping it off. Walk it off nice and gentle. That's you should always treat your tools well, right? And actually, I probably should have stamped the sentiment first, and then I'll know where to put the flowers, right? That would make sense. So this one says, "You are loved." So let's grab that one. And they do give you so many other choices of sentiment. So if that's a sentiment that you wouldn't use, that's okay. Just pick a different sentiment and pop it in. Super easy. And this is actually going on the inside of the card, so I should open it up. And it's going to be a vertical card. We're going to stamp the "You Are Loved" in the center. Now I'm using my big stamp pad for this. Would help if it was right side up. Just going to get some ink on there, stamp it in the center. And this is probably the first paper pumpkin kit that I have used that had stamping on the inside of the card. So I thought that was kind of unique. Now, one thing that is not in your kit is you don't get something to clean your stamp with. So you can just have a piece of scrap paper, stamp it off a bunch of times, and move along if that's your choice. Because it might be somebody who's new and doesn't have a stamp cleaner, or you can use your stamp cleaner, or whatever it is that you use to clean stamps. So we've stamped "You Are Loved," and then we're going to grab that floral and stick it on our stamp block. Whenever I pick up stamps, I like to put my stamp down and then pick it up with my block. And that gives the stamp just a minute to relax and get back into the right shape. The other thing you want to do is you want to season your stamp. I don't remember if I did that before I stamped my sentiment, but you should. And when you're inking, you want to just make sure that you don't get ink all over your block, because that will end up on your card and probably in a place that you don't want it. So let's stamp one little flower there and then turn it around. We'll stamp one little flower there. I think that's a fun way to do an inside sentiment. I did kind of goob up the bottom one. I didn't quite ink it quite all the way. That's my own problem. And then we're going to, actually we're not going to close that up because we're going to use that again. Never mind that. Now we're going to close our card. It's even got the little symbol that tells you close your card. And then we're going to do some stamping on the front. Now I'm going to actually kind of lay mine out like that because I think that would be easier. Let's grab our next stamp, which is the pretty little design that's on that same carrier sheet here. This little geometric design. So let's take our stamp off our block. So think in your mind who you could gift this kind of subscription to, because I think that if you have, you know, college kids who are just heading off to college, they're going to need something to have some downtime, a little stress reliever kind of project. And I think having a little bit of crafting on hand, and then they can use the cards and encourage their friends and things like that. And or maybe influence their teachers into a better mark with a handmade card? Probably not, but you know, there's things. And I think it's just a super fun activity. If you're, you know, having a rainy day, you can stamp yourself and adhere some things together on a card. And I think that that would be just ideal. It doesn't take up a lot of space, which is important when you think about kids at school or people in a small space. Everything you need is in the box. That's why I'm showing you this project with the stamp, with the paper pumpkin block. I want just to show you, the only thing I changed was the ink, that it can be made with everything that's in the box. Okay. Now we have the little tag here. Let's find that on our dies. We've got a sheet of die cuts here. This is our little tag, and we're going to stamp thank you on that. So we'll set that one aside. We'll put it up there. Grab our little guy here. Let's find our thank you. Up at the top. That's where that little paper that has the printed out stamp designs on it is very handy, because I would then be able to see where that stamp was. Okay, and again, brand new stamp. Let's season it up. And what seasoning does is there might be factory oils on the photopolymer, and then the ink will actually pool in little droplets on your stamp instead of giving a nice all-around coverage. And so by rubbing it on your arm or your hand, as long as you haven't put hand cream on just before, it takes that factory oil off, kind of makes it so that it will pick up the ink evenly. Okay, so we've got all those. Then we've got our large die cut that's already punched out for us, this beautiful scene on a windowsill. And these are very easy to put together cards. They're not hard. And like I said, this is probably the one that has the least amount of intricate things you have to do on the card. All right, so they even show you where to put the dimensionals. Now they do usually have plenty of adhesives. So if you feel like you need to add more, you can add more. You can even use the edges, chop them off and use those. But I'm going to follow what they say. So we're just going to go ahead and take the backings off of that. And then we're going to layer it on top of our nice little stamp design here. Right there like that. And you can see that little stampy bit sticking out the edges. Then we're going to take our thank you and stick 2 little dimensionals just on the end. Because half of this is going to, well, more than half, is going to be up on the part that's already raised up. So this is going to go on here, right about here. Just like that. That is our first card, and really, how quick and simple was that? That didn't take us very long at all. A beginner could easily make that kind of card. Okay, let's jump to project number 2. Tuck all our instructions in. Now, you may have wondered why the instructions have no written instructions. That's because these would have had to been translated into several languages, and for all the places that Stampin' Up! Sells to. So it's easier just to do things with pictures, right? That's the gist of it. So let's grab our next card base, and we're going to stamp on the inside. You want to make sure you've got it facing the right way up. Ask me how I know. It's because I've done it wrong before. All right, and let's grab our sentiment first. And so this one is the one about good friends. This is the inside sentiment. And you know what? The day I opened this was right after a stash dash on Tuesday night. And we had rolled the dice, and the theme for the card was friendship. And I had made my card and then opened this up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that would have been perfect. All those lovely sentiments I could have used on my card for Stash Dash. But I hadn't opened the box yet. I don't know why I was waiting. All right, let's stamp our sentiment on the inside. Good friends are hard to find. I'm so glad we found each other. And then we're going to stamp that flower arrangement again. So let's grab that off the carrier sheet. Now you can totally switch all these things up. You can stamp whichever images, whichever sentiments. You can even not do these ones and pick one from your collection that you like. Or you can leave it blank on the inside. Quite often I just leave the inside of my cards blank, but I think that this looks really pretty, so we're going for it. So once we've done that stamping, then we can close up our card. Give that a nice crease down. The other thing you can crease with is the handle of your scissors. If you don't have a bone folder, and if you don't have really sturdy fingernails, some people can just with their fingernail. I used to do that, but my fingernails have gone Okay, so now we have this beautiful image on the front, and you're going to think this is weird, but they're telling us to stamp across the image. And you might think that's kind of odd, but it'll make sense here in a minute. So we're just going to pick up this same design that we used before. We're going to ink it up, and then we're going to stamp across, and I'm going to kind of use the table line as my guide to keep myself even, and we're actually going to kind of overlap here. And don't worry that it overlaps, that it looks a little gnarly in the middle, because we're going to cover it up. That's the next step. Now our last little stamping bit is we're going to stamp the word for you. So let me find that on our sheet, and I've been doing an excellent job of not putting the stamps back on the carrier sheet properly. I will do that later. I'm just too excited to craft right now. I don't want to take the time to put it away properly. You should always do that though. So we've grabbed our little For You, and then from our die cuts that have all the sentiments, we're going to get the cute little rounded end tag. And you will notice on here, we're making 3 cards of each style, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of each of the sentiment pieces. That's because they're fully aware that at some point somebody might make a boo-boo. And so instead of leaving you in the lurch, they gave you an extra. And so that means you have permission to make a boo-boo or save it for another project. You can totally do that too. Now they're putting this on with the circle to the one side, to the right side. I'm going to ink up my stamp there. Stamp For You on the little tag, which I think is kind of cute because this looks like a nice bouquet of wildflowers. And you know, quite often we give a bouquet to somebody. It's for you. Now, we're going to use a lot of die cuts on this. You see this whole design here? So we've got our bag. Let me scooch over here so we can see everything. We've got our tag, our bag and our tag. We've got the strap for our bag. We're going to pop that off. And then we've got florals. Actually, might be these florals. Trying to match up pictures because they're showing me the back side. So we've got that, that, oh, and one of these. That's what we're doing. That, and that. Okay, and it even shows me where to put my dimensionals. So all the adhesive for this kit is dimensionals. Sometimes with the kits they have glue dots or Terran tape, but this time it's all dimensionals. Quick and easy. There we go. And then they even have a little instruction. Take your snips and cut one of these little dimensionals in half. Snip. Just like that. And then that's what's going to adhere our little strap here. Our handle. And if you're like me, see how that's a bit of a struggle. If you're like me and you have big fingers and not very dexterous fingers by times, if you have a take your pick tool, you can stab it sideways into the foamy bit of a dimensional, and then you can position it where you want it. Now, I'm trying to do this kit so that you can see that it can be created without any additional items, so I will continue doing this with my fingers. And then this last one, they actually used 3 dimensionals on it. Wow, this is going to be a well stuck down floral. There's probably a reason for that, and I think it's because we're going to have a little bow here. Yeah. Okay, so we also need our thread. Sorry, I was just having a happy little look at the bow. So we've got our thread, and we're going to need 12 inches of thread for this. First, we got to find the end. That looks like an end. And I've got my mat here, but you could use a ruler, whatever you need, to cut yourself 12 inches. And they're usually generous with the measurement. Now, if you pull your thread off a spool and you find it's all curly like that, and that makes it a little bit hard to tie a bow, then you just take your closed scissors and just run it very gently. I'm applying literally no pressure, no squeeze with my thumb. It's just sliding through, and look at that. Takes away a lot of that curl, no problem. Okay, so now we're going to tie a little bow. And am I tying the bow onto the tag? I bet, because otherwise how would I adhere it? Whoa, so smart I am. All right, we're going to tie our bow onto our tag. Let's see if we can successfully tie a bow. Sometimes It's a little more successful than others. I was going to use the trick with the tweezers, but I'll do it without the tweezers. Let's see if we can. Speaking of if we can, my husband has a very big bushy beard, and there's a company that we have purchased beard products from for him before. My friend's boyfriend actually owns the company, and so they have these little advertisements, and the slogan, you know, there'll be a guy who looks like he's out in the wood shop, you know, planing some wood and doing all this stuff, and you know, he's got a nice beard, and you know, looking the part of a guy who knows how to do stuff. And then at the end, you see him pulling out the IKEA box and assembling with the Allen key. And the slogan is, "Look like the man who can." So I always thought that was funny. All right, I'm going to trim off my bow, and there we go. Now we're ready to assemble. So we're going to add our little bag on first. The backing was confounding me. I have carpal tunnel, and right now my left hand is actually gone numb from tying the bow. How silly is that, right? Tie a bow, can't feel your hand. So it's having trouble with the backings. There we go. Anybody else with the carpal tunnels like me? I bet you there are plenty of you. Let's add, you know, I'm going to use my other hand for this. Let's add the other one. One good thing I have, my hands go numb, but they don't hurt. And I know a lot of people who have carpal tunnel, they experience a lot of pain with it, and I don't have that. It's just, it goes numb. and then it doesn't do things very well. And you got to kind of shake it and get it going again. So let's stick our little tag on here like so with that cute little bow. I love how layered it's getting. This reminds me of the toll painting, or not toll painting, toll paper toll. And yeah. All right, let's see. I believe this is going to go over here. That looks about right. Like that. And then this larger one is going near the handle and the front edge of the bag. Like so. Lovely. And then the last one is going to go wherever there's 2 yellow flowers, probably up here. Which way do I want to go? I want to go that way. I'm just going to pop that on there, and there we go. There's our cute little card with that really dimensional bag and florals on the front, and our lovely stamping inside. So that's card number 2. And then our final card, I'm excited to make this one because I love the look of those flowers and the typewriter. I don't know what it is about it, but I loves it. Just going to crease that down, flip our page over, and, oh, we have stamping on the inside, yes. And so we're going to stamp "To Say Thank You" on the inside of our card. Let me just grab the stamps. We'll take this off. And let me see. To say, we're going to grab 2 sentiments and then the thank you that we used before. Now, when I pick these up, what I would normally do is I would grab the "To Say" like that, and then I would grab the thank you, and that way you can kind of line them all up and stamp them at the same time. All right, let's make sure we're the right way up. We'll ink up our sentiment, and I probably should have seasoned that because one of those has not been used before. Stamp it in there. And then we're also going to add those beautiful florals again. No wonder they called it farmhouse florals. Lots of florals. those back on the carrier sheet. There we go. And ink that up. And this is now Old Hat because we've practiced this a few times. Stamp it there. And then we'll turn it around and stamp it there. Beautiful. And then we get to go around to the front side of our card. And I think I stuck my finger in it. Always got to stick your finger in it. And on the front here, we're going to stamp just a note, which is super cute because it's the typewriter, right? Just a note. Now, if you don't have a reason for a thank you card, then you can switch up the sentiments, right? I use a lot of thank you cards, so that always makes me happy when there's thank you cards in here, because this is a nice, beautiful, easy, no thinking required way of getting lots of lovely thank you cards. So we want just a note right there. Lock it off. And pick it up. And then season it. That helps everything. Just a note. And this is kind of stamped near the top edge because it's coming up out of the typewriter. Now, that was our last stamping requirement for our 3 cards, so we'll tuck that aside. And we need to grab our other embellishments. So we have our typewriter, and we have our paper, and then we have 2 florals, one of which I already popped off on accident. They come out very easily. And so let's get these all dimensionaled together. And where did I put the dimensionals? Right there. Let's stick some on. So we need 2 on the top of our paper that's coming out. We need 4 on our typewriter. And there's actually a slit that's been cut in the typewriter for that paper to pop right out of, like they thought of everything. And then on our florals, those, and then this guy gets a couple as well, just like that. Okay, let's start sticking, and I'm going to guess we should start with the typewriter. Take the backings off. What are you thinking about this pretty card? I think these are super fun, and if you had to, you know, cut all these little pieces out, some of you who do not like fussy cutting would say, no thank you, but it's all die cut for you, which is amazing. Makes life easier. And then we can tuck this little paper down in that slot and work it down in till we're happy with where it is. Just like that. Stick it down and then add our little florals. I think that's super cute. And this little guy is going to kind of poke over the edge there like that. And then this little one, peel it off. It's going to come over here and kind of sit on top of this edge like that. And I think that is everything. So there is card number 3. Now, of course, you can jazz this up any way you want. You could add a little bow on there. You could add some bling on there. You can do as you please. So there was card number 3. Card number 2, remember, with the bow and the bag and all that fun dimension. And our stamping on the inside as well. And then the first one that we created with that beautiful window scene thank you card with our stamping on the inside. How gorgeous are those? I hope you guys enjoyed the process of seeing that paper pumpkin come together. Hey, Jennifer, Diane's here too. I hope that you feel inspired to do some creating and think about, even if you have your own stamps and images at home, you know, stamp a couple and pop them up and do some piecing. And that's a super fun way to make some dimension on your cards. And I think they just look beautiful because when you stand them up, just like they would be on display, it creates little shadows and you can really see the dimension on them. All right, so have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Happy crafting today, and we will be on at 7 o'clock for Chat and Craft. We'll see you then. Toodaloo. Bye.